So, good evening, class. Tonight we are going to continue where we stopped. We are still on components and techniques in business analysis. So, last time we stopped at requirement gathering, how to gather requirements, various techniques in requirement gathering like interview, focus groups, observation, survey. These are various methods we discussed last time. So tonight we are going to look at documentation and modeling and analysis. So these are things we are going to look at this night. After gathering requirements, the next thing you need to do is to process that requirement by documenting them professionally. And during documentation, it's not enough for you just to document it using maybe Word document or spreadsheet for documentation. We need to model requirements in order to analyze it. That's a professional way of doing it as a business analyst. So these are the things we are going to look at. How do we do this documentation after requirement gathering? And how do we model it? And how do we analyze that requirement? So let's proceed and look at it from our lecture notes. So requirement documentation and requirement modeling is creating, after documentation, we have to create a visual representation of current and future business processes to identify areas of improvement. So it's very, very important we understand how to represent this. If we don't represent it in a visual documentation like this, it's going to be cumbersome trying to understand various areas that requires improvement. And we use a technique called UML, Unified Modeling Language. As a matter of fact, there is a language for the BAs, business analysis, and that language is called Unified Modeling Language. That is the language we use for this requirement modeling. So this requirement modeling, we use the language called... Please, UML, so called Unified Modeling Language.
Madam, mute. Madam, mute.
So that is it, Unified Modeling Language. That is the language we use for this visual representation of both current and future process. So the techniques, various techniques we use here, we have It's part of the modeling techniques. We have process flow charts. We have swim lane. We have a use case diagram, and we have process simulation. These are various processes we are going to look at. Then, looking at this example, how do we apply this within a context? Creating a process flow to visually represent the current customer journey and identifying areas for improvement for reducing manual data entry. So in a CRM or ERP system, we need to understand, or within accounting department, or within sales department, or within marketing department, if we want to understand how to improve the activities of that department, this is the way we do it. First, we need to understand the way they work. That is what we call requirement gathering. We gather requirements about, I'm going to use finance and account department as an example. If we want to improve or digitalize finance and account department, the first thing we need to do is to understand the way they work. What is their current process? What is their current way of operation within that finance and account department? We know in finance and account department, the activities there is income coming in and money going out. We call it account receivable and account payable and general ledger. But the main activity here is income and expenditure. So coming in, going out, that is what the finance department are doing. They are receiving all the money coming into the company, and all the payments going out, maybe paying the suppliers, paying staff salary. These are all the ways money is going out. Then income coming in can be them selling their products, selling their services to the customers. Then money will be coming in there. When the sales department sells the services or the product, then money will come in. But so many in this situation, so many finance and account department, they are doing all this, they are managing all these activities manually. And because of that, it becomes difficult to understand financial record, a lot of errors, a lot of data, poor data quality, a lot of things start happening because they are not managing it very well using automated technologies. And this is what is happening in various organizations today. So many companies, so many organizations need to have these, ranging from church, hospital, schools. All these people, they need a software called ERP software to manage their finance and operations activities, but they don't have it. And that is why so many businesses are struggling. So these are so many ways BAs can do their job. So I want to use a case study to drive this point home for better understanding. Now, let's just assume we have done requirement gathering, and then we want to document the information or the data captured. So a case study is going to be finance and account activity process in, I use Gokabu. Then this is the finance and account activity without any system. This is the way we work without any system, any ERP system. We don't have any solution. We are doing everything manually. Let's see, manual process. So many companies, it's not only GoCabu, so many companies that are not using ERP system, this is the way they manage their finance and account. So in finance and account, if you want to do documentation after your requirement gathering, these are some of the people you need to interview during your requirement gathering. You might want to interview the salesperson. These are the key actors. You might want to interview sales person, customers, if you have access to customers, purchasers, company purchasers. You have people that their role is purchasing, purchasing and supply. In companies, we have some people that is their role, procurement. So we have purchasers, then we have vendors, and then we have accountants. So these are various actors that might have one thing or the other to do within the finance and account department. And you trying to understand, you need to talk to all these people, gathering information, how they work, what are you doing, how do you create, how does this money comes in, if a customer makes payment, starting from salesperson. These are so many things you need to do during requirement gathering. So the salesperson here creates sales order, invoice, and collect payment. That's what the salesperson does. You create this sales order, and then when there is sales, you create an invoice. You give invoice to the customer, and then you collect payment from the customer. And the customer here receives the invoice and makes payment, or make payment or receive the invoice, whichever way, but the customer receives invoice and makes payment. These are things they do. Then here we have purchaser. Purchaser here, we can call it procurement. Create purchase order. Whatever the company is purchasing, this is the person that does it. And when that purchase is done, who is this purchaser purchasing from? He's buying from a supplier. We can call it a supplier, or you can call it a vendor. So then the supplier here receives purchase order and then send invoice to the company, and then the company makes payment. Who makes this payment on behalf of the company? The accountant. So the accountant manages all these payment when the payment goes out. So that is it. The accountants manage account payable and account receivable, reconciles statements, and generates reports. But all these things, because we don't have an ERP solution, they are doing all these things manually. So now we've done requirement gathering. So you have to state the actors, which, like, see the way I stated these actors here. That's the way I'm documenting, because I have to state where does this information come from. During requirement gathering, whom do I need to talk to? I need to talk to this group of people to collect this information that I'm going to document in a process flow. So I have to start with this process flow, the sales order creation. Who does the sales order creation? All of us know what is sales order. Sales, selling, company's services or company's product. So the salesperson does that. The salesperson creates a sales order, documents manually, specifying items, quantities, price, and customer details. Then paper copies are generated, or the information is stored electronically in a separate system, such as spreadsheets. That is the first process. Then invoice generation. The salesperson generates invoice upon shipment or service completion. The salesperson creates an invoice document. Invoice is manually copied from the sales order or recreated. Paper copies are generated for physical delivery to the customer, or electronic copies are sent via email. Payment collection from the salespersons. The salesperson collects payment from the customer through various methods such as cash, check, credit card. These are various methods. Then payment might be received in person, mailed, or deposited directly into bank accounts. The salesperson might need to chase overdue payment if there is payment by installment. Then payment recording. So you can see the first three main processes here are being done by a salesperson. So now the fourth process here is, this is where the accountant is now coming into the process flow. The accountant manually records customer payment in a ledger or accounting software. This might involve recording checks received, deposit made, and outstanding invoices. Bank reconciliation. The accountant regularly download or receive physical bank statements. They manually compare the bank statement entries with the company's record of deposit and payment. That is what the accountants are doing. These their jobs on regular basis. Any discrepancies requires manual investigation and correction. Then for purchase order creation, for the, what we call it, procurement, the purchaser creates a purchase order document manually, specifying items, quantities, and desired delivery dates. Paper copies are generated, or the information is stored electronically, example spreadsheet. The purchase order is sent to the chosen vendor. Vendor invoice processing by the accountant. Upon receiving goods or services, the company receives an invoice from the vendor, it's paper or electronics, the accountant manually enters the invoice detail into a ledger or accounting software. They need to verify pricing and other details against purchase order if one exists. This is optional. Payment approval. Depending on company policy, some invoice might require approval by designated manager before payment. The manager physically reviews the invoice and authorizes payment with a signature. Payment processing by accountant. So once approved, the accountant manually initiates payment to the vendor, issuing a check, making a wire transfer, or authorizing an online payment if available. Reporting. The accountant manually generates reports by accumulating data from various sources, such as sales invoice and customer payment, purchase invoice and vendor payment, bank statement and ledger. This process can be time-consuming and prone to error. So, this is the process flow. So this is the information you've captured during your requirement gathering. So if you want to document information you captured, for instance, if some of you now you send to GoCabu as an account, as a business analyst, where GoCabu do not have an enterprise application to manage their finance and account department, you are asked to go and improve on the process. The first thing is you gather requirements. Whom are you gathering requirement from in GoCabu? These are the people you need to gather requirement. You look for these people. These are stakeholders you need to look for you to gather a requirement. Once you gather requirement from these people, you need to document it like this. This is manual process of finance and accounting department. There is no digital application here. Everything they are doing here, even spreadsheet, everything here is considered as manual process. They are not automated. So that is requirement documentation. Now you've documented without ERP. So that is it. So after collecting this and documenting this requirement this way, it doesn't end here. So this additional note is saying this process is more labor intensive and prone to error compared to ERP system. Data duplication across spreadsheets and documents is common, leading to inconsistencies. So these are various limitations of using this kind of process without ERP system. Manual reconciliation of bank statements is time-consuming and tedious. Generating reports requires significant manual effort and aggregation of data. So these are the limitations of using manual process in a department like finance and account. Such a situation can happen not only in finance, it can happen in sales and marketing. But in sales and marketing, we are not going to be using ERP. The kind of enterprise application we are going to be using is CRM. But here, because we are in finance and accounts, the kind of enterprise application you can use to deal with this kind of situation is called ERP. So now you finish doing the documentation. It does not end here. You need to do requirement modeling. You need to model this process. How do you model this process? You need to model this process using a technique called UML, Unified Modeling Language. Within Unified Modeling Language, you can find so many sub-techniques within Unified Modeling Language, like process flow, flow charts, so many of them. But we are going to use simple process flow or process map to do this documentation. And this is it. This is the documentation modeling we are going to do here. This is what we call process model. All these stories I've been telling you here, starting from here, this is the model. So this is how I'm saying this story. This is how I'm telling this story. And you can see the way it starts here. You see the process flow here. And in this process map here, I used a technique called swim lane diagram. Swim lane diagram is when you use different lanes to capture different professionals or different system or different actors. So here we have different actors here: salesperson, accountant, and purchaser. These are the people I captured within these. They are different actors. We call them cross-functional activity. Cross-functional because they are from different actors. It's not only one person doing this, it's different actors performing this process. So we have salesperson as an actor, we have an accountant as an actor, and we have purchaser as an actor. So looking at this, we have a software we use to do this. The software we use as a BA, every all of us are going to learn how to do this. It's a must. You must learn how to create a process flow like this or flow chart. These are basic things you need to learn as a business analyst, because this is the way you speak. This is your language. Well, happy enough is not, it doesn't involve any coding, but this is the language we use to analyze business as BA. We use Lucid charts. We have Visio, and then we have draw.io. So these are some of the tools we are going to look at when we are going to be dealing with tools in business analysis. So by the time we are going to use or look at the tools in business analysis, then we are going to use that tool to create these particular activities. And then everybody will be prompted to create their own first process map. So it's important you know how to do this. But for now, we have to talk about it for you to know it. And then the next, we have to learn the tools. Part of the learning the tools is going to be creating this thing physically. So we have to create them. So in this process map, you see how this is being mapped, or starting from the sales order creation. You see how where it starts. This is the start, and you see the arrow here. You see they are moving following the arrow. And equally, you see the way I itemize all the processes. So even without arrows, you can read the process very well following my itemization. Like here, I said 1.0 is sales order creation. 1.1, the salesperson creates a sales order document. 1.2, paper copies are generated. Then we come to the second process, which is invoice creation. Then 2.1, upon shipment, the salesperson creates an invoice document. 2.2, invoice is manually copied from the sales order. 2.3, paper copies are generated for physical delivery to the customer. And then we'll come to process flow. We'll come to the process number 3, payment collection. Under payment collection, which is 3.0, we'll have 3.1, collect payment from the customer through various methods like cash, check, and credit card. And then 3.2, payment might be received in person, mailed, or deposited into bank accounts. So we have to, this is what the salesperson does under this process map, or this end-to-end process flow. Now we finish with the salesperson. We are migrating to the next operator that will take over from the salesperson, which is the accountant. And the accountant is first to start payment recording. The salesperson makes the sales and collect the payment, and then the accountant does the payment recording. And then accountant here, under payment recording, which is 4.0, we have 4.1. The accountant manually records customer payment in ledger. And 4.2, recording checks received, deposit made, and outstanding invoices. And then 5.0, bank reconciliation. Then 5.1, the accountant regularly download or receive physical bank statement. Accountant manually compare the bank statement entries with the company's record or deposit and payment. And the accountant identify any discrepancies, requires manual investigation and correction. And that is what the accountant does here. And now the money has come into the company account. The company have money now, so the company can spend money, the company can make payments, they can make procurement, and this is where the purchase order comes in. The purchase order, this is now account payable, account money going out. What we have been doing from the salesperson is money coming in. That is account receivable. So under account payable, the purchaser creates purchase order creation. The purchaser creates a purchase order and document manually. The paper copies are generated or the information is stored electronically, example spreadsheet. The purchase order is then sent to the chosen vendor. So, vendor invoice processing. Upon receiving goods or service, the company receives the invoice from the vendor. That is paper and electronically. The accountant manually enters the invoice details into the ledger. The accountant verifies the pricing order details against the purchase order. Payment processing. The accountant manually initiates payment into the vendor's bank account and then reporting. So the accountant manually generates reports by accumulating data from various sources. And that is how the accountant performs the financial reporting and the process end. So this is how you do your modeling. If you gather requirements, you model it this way. And then within this process model, you can then analyze each process to understand the value each process brings in. So this is requirement gathering and requirement documentation and requirement modeling. So after modeling, then you do requirement analysis. You can still do your analysis on this model. So let's see how we can do analysis on this model. I will perform a simple gap analysis on this documented requirement model, this process map. I will use this process map to quickly do a gap analysis to fish out areas of improvement within this process map. So this is it here. This requirements, this is the process map we've just documented. Now we can do analysis on this process map. Looking at this process map is the same thing we've just done. But during the analysis, I'll be doing my gap analysis. All the processes that requires improvement or doesn't add value will be highlighted in red color. And that is what I'm going to be doing. So I will analyze the first process, and the first process is sales order creation. Sales order creation, the salesperson creates a sales order, and the paper copies are generated. I will have to analyze this against an ERP system. Knowing I have some knowledge of ERP system, general, even if you don't have detailed knowledge of different ERP system, having general knowledge of ERP system can do this. The salesperson can create a sales order within an ERP, within a CRM system. This is where this is going to be happening, not ERP, but CRM. And the paper copies are generated. Within a CRM, you can create this. So I consider this to become a place that we need to improve by implementing a CRM and then integrating the CRM with the ERP, so that when the salesperson creates a sales order within the CRM, the paper will be, not paper, but copy will be generated from the CRM system. And that is the invoice. So the CRM, most of the CRM system can generate invoice. And once that invoice is being generated, automatically the invoice, a copy of that invoice will be sent to the ERP system. So upon shipment, the salesperson creates an invoice. Invoice is manually copied. So all these areas are where we do it manually. The areas I'm highlighting in red colors are manual processes that can be done automatically with a system. These are manual processes. You see, within this process, I've identified 4 gaps in the system. That's what we'll talk about, gap. Trying to gap analysis, trying to fish out gap in the current process, areas of improvement. Now, paper copies are generated for physical delivery to the customer. So this physical delivery cannot be done, it cannot be automated for now, because the delivery person, most of the orders we receive from companies will say that most of the orders, they have, we need to put a paper copy on top of the goods for delivery. So because of that, this can still be, even if we have an ERP system, we still have to do this particular process manually. So because of that, it's still very valuable, and I'm leaving it still in green because it's still value. So what I'm doing here is what we call value stream. I'm looking out for value added process and non-value added process within the system. So this one is still value added, and all the ones in red color are non-value added process that requires improvement. So payment collection, collect payment from the customer through various bank method. Even if we implement CRM or ERP, this will still be the method of payment collection. So we leave it is still value added. Payment might be received in person, mail, or deposited in bank account. This is still valuable. It's still a valuable process. Even if we automate the system, we'll still receive money this way. So payment recording. The accountant manually record customer payment in ledger. If we have an ERP system, this can be done through the ERP system. And this is the best way. This is one of the major reasons why companies are implementing ERP systems, so that accountants will stop recording payment manually. Recording payment manually comes with so many limitations. This can cause aid fraud within the system, and it can come with a lot of error. For instance, if the accountant is planning to record 5,000 and then added another zero, is it not 500,000 or 50,000? So that can become a big issue for the accountant or for the company, because that will be discrepancy. When you get a bank account, you see that what the accountant is recorded is different from what is in the bank. And somebody will start thinking maybe a fraud happened somewhere. Maybe it might not be fraud, it might just be accounting error that happened because of manual handling. So because of that, we strongly encourage to avoid this kind of manual data handling. It's prone to error and it's prone to fraud. Then record the accountant here recording checks, received, deposits, made outstanding invoice. This can still be done manually and is still value added. Then bank reconciliation. Please mute yourself. During bank during bank reconciliation, the accountant will download the bank statement from their bank account or get a physical or paper bank statement and manually compare what is in the bank and what they have in their record, and then fish out any discrepancies. So these three processes here, when you have ERP system, the ERP system will automatically capture the bank or download the bank statement and automatically compare what is in the record with what is in the bank and then flag off any discrepancies. So you need to download and match to fish out any discrepancies. These are done automatically with a speed of light. So, but doing this manually can take up to, depending on the volume of transaction, can take, sometimes take weeks, take months to do reconciliation. Then purchase order creation. The purchaser creates a purchase order manually. The paper copied, generated, or the information is stored electronically. So these two processes under purchase order can be done through ERP system automatically. It can be created from here, and the purchase order is then sent to the vendor. This will still be done manually, but depending on the system can send this. The ERP system can trigger an email and send an email to the vendor sending the purchase order, or it can be sent manually as well, but in most cases, it's being sent via email. So the system can do this manually. It can be done, still be done manually, but ERP system can still do this. So this can equally be highlighted in red. Then vendor invoice processing. Upon receiving goods or services, the company receives an invoice from the vendor. So once an invoice is being received from the vendor, the accountant manually enters the invoice detail into the ledger, verify pricing, other details against the purchase order. This can be done by ERP system automatically. So that's why I highlighted this in red. And then payment processing. Accountant manually initiate payment to the vendor. The ERP system have the capacity, after verifying the pricing and the detail, can initiate a payment without accountant doing this manually. So the system can initiate payment depending on the logic surrounding the system. And then reporting. Under reporting, the ERP system can automatically generate a financial report, removing this, the accountant having to manually generate reports by accumulating data from various sources. Because the ERP system have almost all the data in the system, it can just accumulate all these reports within the system, and within the speed of light, it will generate a comprehensive financial report. So this is how you can quickly draft a gap analysis. So this is a gap analysis here, which is valid everywhere. So that is it. So you can see we've done requirements gathering, requirements, documentation, requirement modeling, and requirement analysis. So that is it. Very simple. It doesn't require so much grammar. You just do this very simple. So for what to look at, what is there, let us understand a bit of what gap analysis. Gap analysis is analyzing and refining gathered requirement to ensure clarity, competence, and alignment with the business goals. And the techniques, the most common techniques in requirement analysis, well, it depends on the kind of problem you are solving, is gap analysis and root cause analysis. So gap analysis is assessing the difference between the current state and the desired future state, identifying gap in the process, functionalities or data. So we have to compare the two systems. So in my gap analysis here, I compared the two systems. The two systems compared here is the accounting system without ERP system and accounting system with ERP system. So these are the two processes, the two states. The first state is the current state, and the second state is to the future state, which is a situation where we'll have to start managing finance and account department using ERP system. And the first state is where we are at this moment, where we are managing finance and account department without any ERP system. And we can say that managing it without ERP system is prone to a lot of errors, it's prone to, data quality is poor, and it takes a lot of time to do a lot of things. So it's time consuming. And equally is prone to a lot of fraudulent activities. We are talking about finance. So that is various gaps which during gap analysis, when I'm presenting this to the stakeholders, they can easily see the gap in this. This is the current state. They can all easily see the gap in the current state. And after this, you have to come up with what we call future states. So that is it. So that is various. I didn't capture the future state here. The future state is not captured here. So, but after this, all these areas, by the time you improve on all these areas, the way you want to improve on it, that will become the future state. That is how it's supposed. All these areas highlighted in red, you need to state how it's going to be improved. For instance, here, some of all these areas, you say accountant manually record customer payments in ledger. Automatically, it's not going to be manually. This is going to be on ERP system. It's going to be recorded on ERP system, and it's not going to be captured manually. It's going to be captured from CRM system, automatically from CRM system. So there is no need of manual recording because it's importing data from CRM system. So that is how you can talk about the future process or the improvement. But the main thing here is that you have done the analysis, you fish out the gap, and then after this, you need to then start talking about the solution you are going to use to solve this problem. And what we are doing here is obvious we are going to use ERP system to solve this problem. So, but what are the ERP systems we are going to use to solve this problem? These are going to be the topic for another time. So, there are ways, gap analysis here. I captured various other ways or steps we can use to do this gap analysis. The typical step if you are doing gap analysis is to choose a specific area you need to focus on, understand the current situation, and know where you are standing. Identify the desired outcome that needs to be achieved. Identify gap between the two states and analyze the causes. And then agree on steps that need to close the gap. It's very simple way of requirement analysis. And outside this, you can do gap analysis, simple gap analysis in various other areas, not only using ERP system, like I showed us when we were starting. And here, these are another case study outside from finance and account department. In this situation, the problem here, I'm just trying to show how we can do another gap analysis outside of what we've done in finance and account department. Finance and account department is the first case study. Another case study here is within a food industry, within a restaurant. And here is the problem within the restaurant. The customer complained that the food takes too long to be served. That is the problem. So what is the current situation? The food takes on average of 14 minutes to be served. 14 minutes, that is the amount of time it takes to serve the food. What is our desired outcome? The food should be served not more than 11 minutes from the ordering. So that is the desire. And what is the gap? The gap is now when we minus this 11 from this 14, we'll have 3 minutes. So the gap within this current situation is 3 minutes. So how do we do that in order to remove this 3 minutes from this 14 minutes? This is the gap here. To do that, we have to, this is the actions, obtain more information from the customers about their experience, ask the employees what would help them provide faster customer service, and equally train employees to provide faster services. So this is another problem where I use gap analysis to solve. So you can see the first case study is using ERP, enterprise resource application, to solve a problem within finance and account department. It can be any organization. It can be finance and account department of a church. It can be finance and account department of a school. It can be finance and account department of even this restaurant. So, but this one is gap analysis, problem with gap analysis, and then we'll solve the problem without any ERP system. So that is the second case study. And then another case study here is the problem is the last audit results were negative in all areas. Audit results. So the current situation is external audit score is below expected. Expected standard is below expected standard, which is 60%. And the desired outcome is that the external audit score should be 90%, but we'll have 60% here. So the gap here is 30%. So what is the action here? Improve documentation and control of documents, comply with legal and other requirements, maintain an external and internal communication record. So with these three actions, you can improve the activities of the external audit and be able to improve the outcome to come up to 90%. So that is the gap analysis as well. So these are various ways we can do the analysis. And the last one here is root cause analysis. So root cause analysis is still very, very important and is good to understand it. What is root cause analysis? It's a situation where we have to dig deep to understand the root cause of the problems. Most problems requires this root cause analysis. So let's look at how we use this simple illustration to solve this root cause analysis. Within root cause analysis, there are so many ways to do root cause analysis, but the most common way is why techniques or 5 whys techniques. So you keep asking questions in order to get down to the roots of the problems. So looking at the problems here, this is the problem. I have just got caught speeding by a speed camera. That is the problem here. Why? I drove past because I was late for work. You see, this is the cause. Why? Because I got up late. Why? Because my alarm didn't work. Why? Because the battery in the alarm clock were flat. Why? Because I forgot to replace the battery. So the problem why you just got caught by a speed camera is because you forgot to replace the battery in your alarm clock. You see that? If you have to dig that, so what do you need to do? If you do not buy this battery and replace the battery in the clock, in the alarm clock, tomorrow you will still get caught by a speed camera. Next tomorrow, it will continue to happen to you until you lose your license. That is going to be the biggest problem if this is not caused. If this by simple battery. So this is how to use root cause analysis to drive down to the root cause of the problem and get the problem solved. So this is the way a BA can apply root cause analysis and get things done. So using why with your team, the approach you can use, although this particular diagram have explained how, but let's look at it from this note. With your team, write a clear, specific problem statement. Ensure your problem is relevant and solving it will make a difference. 2, ask why the problem occurred. Write the answer below the problem. Ask why again for the generated answer and write answer down. Keep asking why until the team identify the root cause of the problem, or until you get an answer I don't know. Once you are finished, discuss and agree on the corrective action that will permanently correct the problem. So that is how this is done. Another example here is, look at this problem. Customer complained about delay test result at our laboratory. Customers are complaining that there is delay in the test result. Why? Because our laboratory has too much workload. Why? Because more requests for COVID-19 testing continue to come in. Why? Because more people need to be tested for the virus. Why? Because the company is facing new wave of virus. So this is why there is delay in test results, because there is, too much. They are receiving more than the usual number of requests than before because of COVID-19 wave. So to solve this problem, to make sure that customers get their test result on time, they need to hire more workload. So look at the action here. Hire more medical staff to help with COVID-19 testing. And that is it. So that is where we are going to stop for tonight in terms of requirement analysis. So there is other types of requirement analysis which we have to still continue with later on. So in a situation here, we'll find a solution. So the next thing is to then assess the requirement analysis we did by either root cause analysis or gap analysis, help us to identify the problem or the gap, areas of improvement, and then look for solution. Then in most cases here, we've seen the solution, but we still need to assess solution to understand the best solution that can help us solve the problem. And that is what is going to lead us to the next step or the next topic or the next technique, and that is a solution assessment and validation, or you can call it solution evaluation. So that is it. That's what we're going to be doing in our next meeting. By tomorrow, we're going to be looking at solution evaluation. So that is it for tonight. So all these notes will be made available in the course portal, so don't worry. So you have them. But if you have any question, still want more clarification, I'll be taking question from you shortly. So thank you, and without wasting time, can see Mr. Babio raising his hand. So what's your question? Okay, I think Mr. Babio, you are not responding either. You are mute. If you are talking, I don't know. But if you are not talking, then I'll go over to Noah.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you so much for the class today. Please, I would like to do big corporations like banks use this CRM and ERP solutions to publish corporate disclosures?
Do they use it?
Yes, is it? I mean, this ERP solutions you taught us today,
Hmm.
can it be used to publish corporate disclosures, like what they provide for their gains, their losses, like quarterly, do they call it? Yeah, quarterly analysis kind of.
Yes, that is the main important aspect of all this enterprise solution. Like I said, the financial report is one of the biggest reports that everybody wants to see from the finance and account department, because that will determine the profit and loss and for the company. They do this manually, all this paper, but with ERP solution, this can be done with just a click of a button, and you get the financial report, the profit and the loss of the company, everything quarterly, everything will be published. Well, it depends on how you want to consume the information, whom you want the information to go to, and most of the time, this is, if it's properly integrated, so many of them will integrate their own with Power BI. This is where the data analysts them come in. They will have to model this with Power BI for consumption from other parts of the organization. But even if it's not integrated with Power BI or other business intelligence reporting software, ERP solutions have the capacity. Well, it depends on ERP, but most of the ERP solutions have the capacity to publish all this. So that is the main purpose, reporting. It helps you for reporting. You see, I captured it where I captured it as a gap in the current process where they are doing it manually. That is it. This is one of the top corporate document of companies, finance, profit and loss accounts. And this is what the finance do. So the answer is yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. So do we have any other question? Okay. Have Chidema.
So, thank you for the class. I I wanted to ask that during the requirement gathering, what's the I know that earlier in the course we did mention that there will be a lot of physical now interviews that happens. The people who are trying to execute or implement the ERP or
Please
CRM.
try to increase your volume.
Okay. I don't know if it's better now. So the
Yeah.
people who are trying to implement the ERP or the CRM, is it they that how is the interview carried out? Like who are the people in charge of interviewing?
The people that implement the CRM or the ERP.
Yes, like from the example you gave to us in the finance and accounting department,
Mm-hmm.
there are some actors, there are some players there
Mm-hmm.
whose processes are studied or what they do are studied. Who are the people who do that studying?
I've mentioned people, for instance, in a finance and account department. If you need to interview people, you need to interview people to understand the problem they are having. And these are the people working. I mentioned key players or key actors within finance and account. So if you need to carry out your interview, these are the people you need to talk to understand their problems. And once you understand their problems, because you are a business analyst, you should be able to figure out the kind of solution that you need to use. They are not going to tell you, I don't know when you are selling the people when you want to, or are you expecting them to tell you the kind of solution they want to use? Is that what you are trying to say?
No, really. I'm just trying to understand how the process goes.
Well, you've seen the process. I've said we need to, did you attend the last class?
Yes, I did.
So we did requirement gathering process. You didn't see all the processes I mentioned during the requirement gathering processes? Or you want me to repeat it again?
No, I know where to find information.
Huh?
No, I know where to find information.
So is there any other thing you want to know, or try to rephrase your question if that's not what you're looking for? Because requirement gathering process, we had a detailed class on requirement gathering. I even share generic interview questions you can use to start, which you can customize to your need.
Yes,
And here I share people you can capture this information from. I use an example of finance and accounts. And it depends on the department you are working with. If you are working with marketing department, of course, there is no way you are going to be interviewing an accountant in marketing department. Or if you are working in customer services, they are going to be different actors. If you are working within the IT support, of course, there is no way you are going to be talking to an accountant if you are trying to capture the problems going on within the IT support. So it depends on where you are, the department you are working determines the people you talk to. So, and that is where stakeholder analysis comes in. You must have done your stakeholder analysis to identify the people you need to talk to. So you see, my class is sequential. If you are following my class sequentially, you are not gonna be missing anything. So if you have missed any class, if you have missed the last class and you didn't watch the video, then you are going to be confused in this class. So, do you have any other question?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, business analysis is not simple like project management. I have to be honest with you. But that is where the main things are happening. You know, anybody can come out and become if you want to distinguish yourself out in the line of IT, you need to take this business analysis seriously, you know. So more especially understanding requirement gathering, requirements analysis, requirement gathering to requirements documentation, requirement modeling, solution evaluation, cost benefit analysis. These are things you need. Starting for requirement gathering is important. You have to understand this requirement gathering, how to document it, how to model it, and how to analyze it. And then how to write business case. Business case is not a big deal because you're just putting everything together. So you must have to understand this before you can call yourself a business analyst. But it's very, very important to understand it. It might not be easy, but that is where the big thing are starting. If you capture, if you understand it very well, for those who are eyeing becoming data analysts, if you can first understand requirements, become a good business analyst is going to be difficult. So you have to start laying the foundation. Like I said, from my experience, even here in UK, most of my students, for the past 3 years now, most of the students have been receiving, most of them are people that have just finished their masters in data science, and they are still struggling because they didn't have that foundation in business analysis. And that's why so many of them have to come in to take a boot camp in business analysis to supplement and give them the necessary background they need. So this is very, very important. So we are going to be ending here tonight, and I wish you a good night rest. So,
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good
Thank
night,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Great.
Good night.
Thank you.
Sister.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe una thank you and finish.